Hello, everybody. I'm so glad that you're here today to find out more about how you can make better relationships. And I just wanted to ask you, have you ever felt torn between your relationship, your career, your friends, your family, your freedom? I bet most of you would say yes to that question. Welcome to the club. But there is a solution to that, because actually it can become a very real issue for many couples as they go through life together. So I want to focus on this as the first step of a very transformational stage. The solution to this on an ongoing basis is quite a step up in terms of personal and even professional development. So, and this is the first in a series of talks about shifting from dualistic thinking to both and thinking. So this is for you if you're serious about your personal growth and development and real development in your relationship, rather than just quick fixes. But just listen to the whole thing anyway, and you're bound to come out of it with some useful tips for going forward. So this it is about a powerful shift in how we can see and experience our relationships, our challenges, and even ourselves. Even for your own life, this is really useful, so stay with me. So I want to lay the foundation by giving you a basic understanding of both and thinking, and how it differs from the common or garden either or thinking that we often use. And actually most of us have been in the habit of speaking and thinking, or vice versa, in terms of either this or that. So what you're going to learn today, it's a tool that you can take into every aspect of your life, and especially in your relationships. Starting off, we start off with what is either or thinking. Well, let's start by talking about what most of us are familiar with. We're trained to see the world in black and white from a very young age. We learn to make decisions based on the assumption that we must choose between two options. Think about how this might show up in your life. Should I focus on my career or my relationship? Should I be strong or should I ask for help? Should I prioritize my needs or their needs? And this is what we call dualistic thinking, where something is a choice between 2 points of a pole. It's a belief that we must pick one option and leave the other behind. It makes sense, right? We're trained to make decisions like this because it seems simpler and more efficient. But what happens when both sides of the equation feel equally important? What happens when you can't choose one without feeling like you're losing something valuable, like career or relationship? That can be a real conflict for many people, or even career or family, or family and relationship. There's lots of these poles, polarities. A more complete perspective and way of looking at things and way of thinking about things is what's known as both and thinking. And it's the practice of holding two seemingly opposing ideas together and seeing the value in both sides. And rather than thinking you have to choose one or the other, you realize that both sides matter and are not necessarily in conflict. They can work together in harmony. But that doesn't always play out automatically. as you go, the conflicts arise. So instead of asking, should I focus on my career or my relationship, for example, both and thinking would ask, how can I honor both my career or my family or my friends and my relationship? So it's about by moving away from seeing life as a series of trade-offs and towards seeing it as a balance of complementary forces. So what would be an example from everyday life? Well, say work-life balance is another uh, pole we get into. On the one hand, work, on the other hand, life. So let's break this down with an example. People often say you need to find balance between your career and your personal life. And usually this means choosing between spending time at work or spending time with loved ones. And you pour yourself into your career, risking burnout or sacrificing career progress to nurture your relationship. And both options might sound stressful and like there is a loss in a compromise or a trade-off between the two of them. But what if we looked at it through a both and lens? The question changes from which do I prioritize to how can I create a life where both my career and my personal life thrive? Now, this might mean finding new ways to integrate your work and personal life. And it may be that you set boundaries that allow you to work hard without sacrificing meaningful time with your family or friends or your partner. It might also mean understanding that you'll lean more into one side than the other at different times, but both are valuable parts of who you are. So let's take that a stage further. How does both and thinking play out in relationships? Now it is a bit of a shift, so just stay with me. Let's apply this to your relationships. Have you ever felt like you had to choose between being independent and being connected to your partner? This is a very common tension in relationships, and one part of you craves the connection and the intimacy and the security that goes with that. And another part of you craves the space and the freedom to do your own thing. I'd love to hear your comments on that, because it is quite common and it's quite normal. Like, it's not a character flaw to have that conflict. And if we think in an either or way, it can feel like a real struggle. Do I prioritize my independence and map out my independence, or do I map out my connection? On the one hand, you become overly self-reliant and risk feeling disconnected from your partner. And a lot of the couples that I see who are running into trouble in their relationships have done just that. They have become very self-reliant, and as a couple, they become disconnected, and then all kinds of things happen from that position of disconnected. Um, you know, on the other hand, you can become far too focused on the relationship and lose sight of yourself and your opportunities out there. So with both and thinking, we realize that those two forces are not enemies. They are not in opposition. And part of the shift is, this is a mindset shift, that we need to stop thinking about it's either this or that. When you're thinking either or, things are put in opposition to each other. Both and thinking, we realize these two forces aren't enemies and that they're part of a dynamic dance. And the goal is not to pick one, but to learn how to honor both of them. And when we embrace that shift in mindset, we stop seeing our partner's need for space as a rejection, and instead we see it as part of a natural flow of the relationship. And similarly, we don't view a desire for closeness as clingy, but as an essential part of our deep connection. Why both and thinking is an absolute game changer in all areas of your life. Because you might be thinking, well, why does it matter? Both and thinking can completely transform how you handle conflict and stress in your relationship and your life. But when you stop feeling like you have to win or choose sides, you open up space for deeper understanding and compassion and creativity. And instead of seeing differences as problems, you see them as opportunities to grow and learn. For example, in a disagreement with your partner, you might initially feel like there's only one right way, your way. But with both and thinking, that invites you to ask, well, how can both of our perspectives be true? And often it seems like if that's so, that can't possibly be. Well, this is it's either right or it's wrong, it's good or it's bad, it's in or it's out, that either or thinking. But when you actually stop and consider, how can both of our perspectives be true? What can we learn from each other's viewpoints? The way of thinking can take you out of that cycle of competition and struggle into a mindset of collaboration. And this is a vital relationship skill. Many couples who finish up separating or divorcing are not able to negotiate, and they don't know how to collaborate. They can compromise, but with compromise, you get a lose-lose. With collaboration and both and thinking, you get a win-win. So I've had to learn this in my work as a family mediator, where family members, especially couples, are in opposition to each other. And I have to bring them around to seeing the relationship that they both want to be happy and growing and developing. And so they've both got to be in alignment with each other. So coming out of that cycle of competition with each other into the mindset of collaboration, being a charmer whose work I would recommend, you'll see some of her videos on YouTube, and she is an expert on this. So she works closely with these concepts, and she talks about how both and thinking helps us develop a higher capacity for emotional resilience and intelligence. When we practice holding multiple truths, we become more resilient and more capable of handling complexity, because life and relationships are complex. And over the lifespan, life becomes more complex as you move from being a couple to having children, and with their separate needs and wants, and family members, parents growing older with their needs and wants. And we do need to grow and develop along with it, to develop the kind of mindset that can hold all those competing demands. And with this, being more capable of handling complexity, as a result, we learn to deal with relationship challenges without feeling overwhelmed or defensive. This is what personal development is about. Personal development is not just about words, and it's not just about doing odd courses and getting more information. It's about growing and changing and maturing and becoming wiser. So how do we do this? So I hope you have your journal and, at least a notebook and pen, or some means of keeping a note here. So let's talk about how do you start practicing this new way of thinking day to day, because you'll be developing new neural pathways and a whole new mindset. And this is a rewiring from how you grew up learning it's either this or it's that, to a more mature way of being in the world and seeing how things can be win-win. First step is notice when you're thinking either or. Um, Ask yourself, am I seeing this as an either or situation? That's the first step, just identifying that. And the second step is to ask yourself both and questions. So, like when you catch yourself in dualistic thinking, try to shift by asking both and questions. So instead of do I focus on my partner's needs or my own, ask how can I honor both my needs and their needs? Okay, so start shifting, making the shift. It takes a while. And remember that it's not about finding a perfect balance. Both and thinking aren't about perfectly splitting your time or your energy between two things. It's about acknowledging both are important and finding ways to flow between them over time. Now, it does involve being able to have um, conversations with each other that move beyond saying it is right or wrong or good or bad, but actually looking at how, how can we hold both ends of this pole so that we come out with a win-win. So be patient with yourself and your partner. Learning both and thinking takes time, and it's not something that we're taught, definitely not. Give yourself and your partner grace as you practice this new mindset. So that is the first steps towards this in this video. And this video is the first in a series of explorations of both and thinking. And in further videos, we'll dive into specific areas where this mindset can absolutely, it's the bedrock now of including how to balance the need for autonomy with the desire for connection, how to manage the tension between stability and change in a relationship, and how to handle differences in needs around control and surrender. So each of these areas will help you to understand natural polarities, how they show up, and even in the workplace and in your other relationships, and how to handle them. So I want you to take one idea away. Life and relationships definitely are not about either or. They're about both and. And thank you for listening. If you find this helpful, please click like and subscribe if you want to be notified of the future videos on this topic. And I'd love to hear your comments, and let me know how things go as you start to put these into practice and what the sticking points are. And please feel free to ask me questions and I will answer them. So thank you for listening, and bye for now.